Oftentimes in my workshops, I'll do an exercise where I'll say, I'm going to call out a word, and I just want you to write down the first 5 words that come to your mind. You ready? Write down the first 5 words. When you hear the word conflict, go. And they'll write down the words. And then I'll have them get into groups, and I'll say, all right, now look at those words that you've just written and decide how many of those words are positive terms, how many of them are negative terms, and how many of them are neutral terms. And folks, I'm telling you, invariably, I will have some positive terms, I'll have some neutral terms, and I will have a whole bunch of negative terms. And then I'll ask, what does that tell us about conflict? And people say, oh, it's negative. Well, is it? How do you explain the positives and the neutrals if it's all negative? I think what it tells me is that we've all had conflict situations in our lives that were painful. We lost a relationship, we lost a job, we lost something important to us because we didn't resolve the conflict well, and so we associate conflict with negativity and pain. I like to focus on CPR, conflict prevention and resolution. I've written a couple of books, I have workshops and keynotes on how to prevent conflict, resolve conflict, and I call that how to play nice in your sandbox. The N in the play nice model stands for negotiate with, not against the other person. And again, this isn't the part of the model where you're going to resolve the important conflicts. And so often when we're in a conflict situation, a dispute with somebody else, it's so easy to make it about them, and we focus on them and how they're too much this or they're not enough that or what have you. And if both parties are focusing on each other, who's focusing on the actual problem that's caused the conflict in the first place? So negotiate with, not against the other person. Try to look at them as an ally, not an adversary. Look at them as somebody who wants to get this resolved just as much as you do. You've probably heard the expression, walk a mile in their shoes. When you're in a conflict situation, that's great advice. Get behind their eyeballs, see the situation the way they see it, and you're going to be better able to deal with them and resolve the issue. It's also great advice because when you walk a mile in somebody else's shoes, you're a mile away from them and you've got their shoes. Okay, on a more serious note, I've heard it said it is difficult to step on somebody's toes when you're walking in their shoes. You know, clients that I deal with primarily have a culture where there is infighting and a lack of morale, a lack of esprit de corps. I think that's still the term we use in our culture. A lack of team identity. And so they're working against each other more than with each other. And again, by just learning a few key concepts that everybody puts into place at the same time, then that can be changed. The culture can change.
Wow, Ron is definitely one of the most articulate, fun speakers that I've heard in a really long time. I think his message around conflict resolution is beneficial to everyone, and regardless of what role they are in the organization. So if you need someone or you need a speaker that needs to keep people engaged and give relevant lessons that everyone can learn from, Ron is your guy.
He's a professional, he's very polished, he's a great storyteller. I can still remember the stories. I go home and I tell my family the stories after I listen to Ron. And I always get a real life takeaway that I can use right away.
I just came out of Ron's presentation. I've got to tell you, that man is fabulous. Not only does he really know his content, he adds humor, he engages the audience. He really, really knows how to anchor in those key points so that you go home with absolute techniques that you can use to actually resolve conflict in the workplace, in your family, wherever it comes up, and to actually look at conflict as a gift.
When people hire me, what they're looking for is somebody, one who's legitimate. And so they want somebody who knows what they're talking about. They want somebody who's going to have practical, useful information, not just jargon or cliches or what have you. Specific tools and tips and techniques that people can apply in their lives from that moment on. And they want to be entertained. Folks, if you hear nothing else I say, take this one to the bank. Hurting people are going to hurt people. Can I say that again for emphasis? Hurting people are going to hurt people.
Not because they want to, not because they're scheming, but if we're not at our best, that's what we're going to do. And there used to be a song, "You always hurt the ones you love." Should we sing it together? No. All right, no. You always hurt the ones you love. Why is that? Well, I get guesses of, well, because we feel safe around those we love, and that's true, or maybe we think they'll forgive us, and that's true. But folks, the main reason that we always hurt the ones we love is because they're there. They're in striking distance. If I'm hurting and I'm going to hurt somebody else, I'm not going to get in my car, drive across town looking for somebody to hurt. I'm going to hurt whoever's in striking distance. Hurting people are going to hurt people. Your choice is to hurt back and create a conflict, or to pause, assume that maybe they didn't mean to, respond appropriately, and you're going to find a lot of conflicts just disappear.